You have 30 days to vacate the premises or face legal action. That was the line that should have been in some dry letter, but instead it got tossed at us by the HOA president herself, standing there all puffed up at the front of the room like she was the sheriff of a one-horse town. You could practically see the smug on her face, and it wasn't just her either. The whole board sitting up there looked at me like they'd just finished running another undesirable out of the neighborhood. I felt my ears getting hot, that little ringing you get when you know you're about to say something you'll regret. Or maybe not regret at all. That's when the meeting room door banged open, and honestly, if you've ever seen a room full of wannabe dictators suddenly get reminded what real authority looks like, you'd know how that felt. Every head in the place turned so fast I thought someone might pull a muscle. My wife Jessica strode in. She didn't walk, she strode. All business in her crisp navy dress, blues medals practically blinding under those awful fluorescent lights. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. The president's grin vanished. Jessica just nodded calm, as you please, and goes, "Sorry for being late, but before we talk about how you're planning to evict my family while I'm deployed, can we take a moment to review exactly which federal laws you think you're about to break?" And just like that, the game changed. Now back up with me for a second, because before all this, we were just your standard issue American family trying to carve out our slice of the dream. I'm Mark It Guy, decent with a grill, not looking for trouble. And Jessica, well, she's Navy through and through. After years of pinching pennies, saving bonuses, and letting the kids pick out paint samples, we finally landed this colonial-style house. Good schools, leafy streets, a couple of playgrounds. The HOA seemed all right. I mean, they had rules, but the realtor said it was just to keep things tidy. Sure, the fees stung, but hey, the landscaping was nice and the pool was a hit with our kids. Life was good those first months, and with Jessica on shore duty, we repainted. Replaced the mailbox, signed up for the neighborhood watch we played by every rule in the book. Then the Navy called and Jessica shipped out for a 6-month deployment. That's when things went sideways. 2 weeks after she left, I found the first violation notice taped to our front door. Grass half an inch too high, apparently. I mowed that afternoon, but the next day, another notice. Trash bins were out 4 hours past pickup. After that, it was a new one every couple of days. Basketball hoops suddenly illegal, our American flag supposedly hung wrong. Even the flowers Jessica planted got called unauthorized vegetation. I tried to talk to Karen. Yeah, the HOA president's actually named Karen. I know you can't make this stuff up, but she just gave me this smile that said she'd seen my type before. "Rules are rules," she said, and that was that. The weird part, I started noticing other houses with the same stuff, hoops, flags, even the same mailbox, but only we were getting notices. Then the certified letter came. They wanted to fine us $100 a day for everything from the kids playing in the yard to my father-in-law's truck in the driveway when he'd come over to help. They even listed blackout curtains in my daughter's room as a violation. Within a month, they claimed we owed over $2,000. I appealed, sent photos, pointed out that the board members' homes had the same so-called issues. They didn't care, appeal denied. Next came the letter that really knocked the wind out of me. They were moving to put a lien on our home and force a sale. Now, this wasn't just about the rules. This was about taking our home. The one we'd put everything into. The one our kids finally felt was theirs after 3 moves in 5 years. Our son had just found a therapist he liked. Our daughter finally made the soccer team. Losing this house would mean starting all over again in a place we couldn't afford in schools we didn't know. I was doing my best solo parenting, scraping by on Jessica's deployment pay, stretching every dollar, but the stress was eating me alive. I'd lost weight, stopped sleeping, the kids could tell something was wrong, and the HOA seemed to get a kick out of making it worse. One night after another inspection left us with 3 new violations for things like excessive foot traffic and a slightly faded section of paint. I called our neighbor, Steve. Steve had lived there forever, a retired cop, not the type to scare easy. He told me, "They've done this before. They push families out with fake violations knowing nobody wants a legal fight. Most people just move. It's cheaper." That's when I realized being nice wasn't going to work. 3 days later, another envelope showed up taped to our door like a scarlet letter. Covenant enforcement action, it said, with the HOA's shiny seal and a stack of photos, all nonsense. A hose not fully wound, a kid's bike on the lawn, some tiny paint chip on the siding. They'd filed a lien with the county already. Karen had declared war. That night I lay awake again and started Googling HOA laws, searching for anything that might help. 4 cups of coffee later at 3 a.m. I found it, the Service Members Civil Relief Act. Federal law right there in black and white protections for active duty families against eviction and foreclosure during deployment. But that wasn't all. Our own HOA covenant had a section about military deployment. Turns out they literally could not foreclose or evict if the homeowner was deployed. I finally had a sliver of hope. I called the Navy legal office the next morning and got a hold of a JAG officer who, when I explained what was going on, was absolutely livid. They're doing what, we're going to put a stop to this right now. She sent over everything I needed. Letters, documentation, info about military housing discrimination. I gathered every violation, every email, every photo showing our violations were all over the neighborhood, just not enforced anywhere else. Jessica called on her next secure line, and when I told her, she didn't hesitate. "I'm coming home," she said, and within hours, she got emergency family leave. She'd land just a couple hours before the next big HOA meeting, the one where they were planning to vote us out. I can still hear the steel in her voice. They have no idea who they're messing with. I'm wearing my uniform. The day of the meeting, I was a wreck. Jessica's flight got delayed, and I was sure I'd have to face those snakes alone, but she came barreling through the door with just hours to spare, travel-worn, but eyes sharp. She read through everything, made her own notes, and said, "Let's end this." She put on her dress blues, straightened her medals, and off we went. As soon as we walked in, every conversation stopped. 30 neighbors, 5 board members, and 1 Karen trying to look unimpressed but turning paler by the second. They gave me 5 minutes to plead our case. I started, but they cut me off almost immediately, saying, "This is just a formality." They put up a projector showing blown-up photos of our violations. I barely got a word out before Doug, another board member, interrupted. "The time for explanations is over." They thought it was already done. Then Jessica stepped in. She didn't raise her voice, but you could feel every word hit like a hammer. "Lieutenant Jessica Mitchell, U.S. Navy. I've just returned from deployment in the Persian Gulf to address this myself." She laid out the law, the federal protections, their own covenants, the whole 9 yards. And then she brought the receipts, photos of other homes, proof of selective enforcement, and finally, a letter from the Navy JAG threatening federal charges up to $110,000 in fines per violation, possible criminal penalties, and a civil lawsuit for discriminatory housing practices if this didn't stop immediately. The board's lawyer looked like he'd just swallowed his tongue. Karen and Doug suddenly couldn't meet anyone's eyes. After a few frantic whispers, the lawyer cleared his throat and said, "The board will need to discuss this privately." They disappeared for 20 minutes. In that time, a few neighbors came over apologizing, admitting they'd been scared to say anything, some shaking Jessica's hand and whispering, "Thank you for standing up to them." When the board came back, it was like someone had let all the air out of their egos. Karen announced, voice shaking, that all fines and violations were dismissed. The lawyer added that any enforcement actions were postponed indefinitely. We got a stiff apology. It was almost funny if it wasn't so pathetic. But you know what? It didn't stop there. Within a week, Karen and 2 other board members resigned. The county opened an investigation into their finances after more residents came forward with stories like ours. Jessica finished her deployment, got promoted, and now sits on the HOA board herself along with another Navy vet. Suddenly, the rules actually make sense, and nobody's getting hounded out over imaginary violations. That's not to say it's all sunshine and rainbows now, but you can feel the difference. Our neighbors threw a barbecue to welcome Jessica home. Some folks admitted they'd nearly moved rather than fight. We even found out that 3 other military families got settlements for the harassment they'd faced. Sometimes it just takes one person standing up to bullies for everyone else to remember they don't have to take it either. There's real power in knowing your rights and even more in refusing to be bullied, especially when family's on the line. So what would you have done in our shoes? Did the HOA get what they deserved, or did they get off easy? I'd love to hear your take in the comments below because honestly, sometimes it feels like the only way things change is when people speak up. And if you want more stories about standing up to power and fighting back when the odds are stacked against you, you know what to do. Stick around, hit that playlist, and let's keep this conversation going.